Just let me very quickly repeat that. So a SWOT analysis consists of positives and negatives and internal and external factors. So positive factors, right, that are internal are strengths. Then negative factors that are internal are weaknesses that hold you back. Then positive factors that are external, that means they are outside of you or outside of your organization. Those are opportunities you can take advantage of. So, and then finally, there are negatives that are external, right? That would be a threat to you. So it could be things like competitors, or it could be, say, fluctuations in the currency. So that may have an impact on on how your cash flow can work. So that is sort in basically a nutshell. End of the workshop. No, just joking. So so let's have a better understanding, right, of how we can apply SWOT. So it's important that you know that SWOT, right, is an accessible kind of tool. So you know that it's not hard to understand. Strength, weakness, opportunities, threats. So it's everyday language. It's, you don't need to have specialist knowledge. You don't need to go and get MBA to understand what these concepts are. And it's a very versatile tool because you can use it to apply to almost anything. Are you starting up a new team for a project? You can actually use SWOT to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of your teams and understand, how to maximize the strengths and minimize the weaknesses. Are you starting a new business? You can do that. Or are you thinking about entering a new country to invest or expand your operations into? You can do a SWOT analysis of that country and the industry of that country. So a SWOT tool, right, is a very a versatile tool. So it can be applied to almost any situation. And it's a very succinct tool because it is just basically four quadrants. So if you want to do a presentation, right, and you need to get across quite a few points of different areas, right, to your bosses, to your investors and all that, and you want to get it across in one slide, in one page, very very quickly, a SWOT is a very good visual tool for that. So let's look more deeply, right, into what we mean by all these strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. uh, it is important that you keep it relevant. And then strengths are things that you want to maximize. So a strength that is not relevant to the situation, right, is not uh, shouldn't go into the SWOT. So let's say you're starting out a new project team, right? And among the team, right, you have one colleague called Jenny, and Jenny is a very pretty young girl. So can you put it down as a strength that, oh, Jenny is a very pretty young girl? Not really, because it's not really relevant to your project. But if you say, oh, Jenny is a Scrum Master, she's a certified Scrum Master, so she'll be able to lead us through the process of our project, then that is definitely a strength. So there may be a lot of different factors that you can see, but you must make sure that the factors you include in your SWOT are directly relevant to what you are looking at. So when you look at your strengths, you want to ensure that these are strengths that you want to maximize, you want to make better use of, you want to promote these strengths, you want to make it more obvious to other people so that it can improve your brand or your image. Or if you have a unique offering, you have something that you have that other people are not able to emulate, you also consider that to be a strength that you want to further promote. Weaknesses are things that you want to eliminate or reduce. So let's say if you have red tape, so administrative complexity is one weakness within your organization. So you want to eliminate that. Or even better, you want to turn that from a weakness into a strength. So you want to go from here to here. So how will you do that? Maybe you can apply ISO standards. So ensure that your administrative processes, right, go through revamp and upgrade into and streamline them according to ISO standards. So you get, say, ISO 9001, and then it becomes a strength that, now your processes are all very smooth, very fast. So anything that is administrative goes through and gets done very quickly. So you have moved that weakness into a strength. So if you cannot eliminate it, you will want to reduce it or make it less of a problem. But of course, the ideal is to shift it from a weakness into a strength, or at least totally eliminate it. So opportunities are things that are outside, right? So they're outside of your control and they're outside of your organization or yourself. And it will be things that can be very global in scale or somewhat more localized. So sometimes it can be things like, let's say there are certain technological innovations coming up and you realize, oh, all right, AI is a very good technology coming up now. Let's say, the chatbots nowadays are getting more intelligent and more intuitive. They're much better at customer service. So maybe that is something I can implement, right? So that is an opportunity you can make use of to say cut down on labor costs, to improve your customer service. Favorable trends can be anything that is occurring now that is of great impact. And whether it's favorable or unfavorable, whether it's an opportunity or threat, right, is also very contextual. So as a hotel, right, if I run a hotel, right, the current COVID situation is definitely a threat. It's an unfavorable trend because nobody's coming. There's no tourist industry. And the number of, say, local business that I can garner, right, from Singaporeans is definitely going to be a lot less than what I can garner from, I think it was something like 10 million visitors per year, from overseas. So that is definitely an unfavorable trend. But if, let's say, I'm Shopee or I'm Food Panda or Grab Food, it is actually a favorable trend because I'm seeing a huge uptick in the number of orders that are coming in. Probably see a surge in a lot of the F&B industry people who want to approach me as a partner for food deliveries. So definitely my business will be getting a huge boost. So a trend, right, is a trend, is a fact. But whether it's favorable or unfavorable depends on your perspective. So you have to keep in mind that whether things are going up or going down, right? It's a matter of how it impacts you personally, and not whether the whole global situation. So moving on to threats, right? Competitor advantages definitely are a major factor that you have to look into. So you need to assess both your direct competitors and also look at how maybe customer perceptions may differ. So sometimes you may get overall good customer perception, or people may think of you as, oh yeah, 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 you're a right person, but then they may tell you, oh, you have certain flaws, you have a short temper, or you're very impatient, that sort of thing. So those are definitely threats because they they that's a perception of what other people are seeing of you. So you may want to be able to see how do you change that perception, right? It may not be that you're really impatient, but it's just that people happen to see you when on your off days, so you may have to think, all right, so how do I cope with that? How do I manage my image? Right. So that's how you can look more in depth into each of these factors. So as I mentioned earlier, right, the context really matters. So whether a factor, right, like say in an economic trend, right, or the COVID situation, whether it's a negative or a positive, is really contextual to what you are trying to define. So whenever you start your SWOT analysis, you must start it from a very clear foundation. Is it based on your organization's mission and vision statements? Is it based on, say, you're starting a new team and your team has a particular goal, so you have to base it on that goal? uh do you So the factors that you include, right, you must always draw it back and make sure that it has a direct impact on the mission or goal, so that you're not adding in factors that are not relevant and end up cluttering your SWOT analysis, and making it very um bloated and complex, right? So you have to keep in mind always the goal or the mission, and drawing out the SWOT from there. uh, you can also do multiple levels of SWOTs. So let's say if you have an organization with different tiers, right, you can get the smaller departments or the sub departments or teams to do their SWOT analysis, and pull out, the common threads from these different teams. So let's say at the lowest level there are 5 teams, right? And then these 2 teams may belong to this department, these 3 teams belong to this department. So they may be presenting their own SWOT analysis up to their bosses, and each of these bosses may look at it and say, oh, I'm starting to see a pattern here. Each of these teams are describing very similar, say, threats or very similar weaknesses. So let's go back to, say, administrative complexity. So maybe each of these teams are complaining that no, there's a lot of red tape. Everything we do needs multiple level of approval. So how that slows us down. So immediately the bosses at the middle level know that, okay, this is definitely something we have to put in our SWOT analysis of the department as a whole. So they plonk that in, and finally, say the CEO gets hold of the department's SWOTs, right? And then he can see that there are common threads running through the SWOTs that are presented to him. So he can do a macro one that will show in a very a large overview, right? But it doesn't miss out the very important points, right, that the people on the ground are seeing. So that's how you can actually get people to sort of present issues, right, pressing issues upwards in levels by using a quick SWOT, right, to tell them, all right, what are the most pressing issues, what are our best strengths, and put them inside these quadrants. Now, a SWOT is not it's a versatile tool, but it is not the be all and end all. You can't say, "Oh, I've done the SWOT already. Yay, mission accomplished. No need to do anything else," because a SWOT analysis, right, is sort of like a photograph. It helps to take a picture of your situation as it is now, but it is not an action plan. It can't help you do well. It can help you, but it can't be a forecast tool. So you can't say, "Oh, based on this SWOT, I know that I must do this, this, and this." By itself, it is not a complete tool to help you do that kind of analysis. So you must use it to complement other sorts of analysis. So you may need to look at a lot of other data and information, right? And use the SWOT as a kind of complementary tool to help you consolidate this information and move on to an action plan. So you have to be aware that the SWOT should be one step along your journey towards forecasting or towards doing say a 5-year plan or so, or a strategic plan, and not in and of itself, right, the only thing you do to in order to do your planning, right? So consider the SWOT to be like a snapshot. It can be very useful snapshot because it can take in all the colors and all the areas, you see, when you take a photograph, but it is a static image. So you must be aware that it has its limitations. So there are certain other readings that you might find useful, and I've curated a few links. So Euromonitor, right, is actually a huge market research agency, and they produce a lot of market research reports. So SWOT is one of the tools that they put, right, that they produce, right, in a lot of these reports, especially at the country and industry level. So they are definitely very experts, right, at creating SWOT analysis. So you can read a bit more. It's a free link because they have blogs and white papers that they produce and put online for free for people to read. So they are actually a very good source of information about the consumer market, consumer trends and behavior. And they actually even provide a template that you can make use of. Although it's a very basic template, it's just basically 2 lines in the cross, and then they put strength, weakness, opportunity, threat, and then their logo, huge logo in the corner. So if you're very lazy to do your own, right, you can use theirs lah. But honestly, it's a very basic one. Then Forbes, right, also produced an article called how to create your own personal SWOT analysis. So how do you apply the SWOT analysis to a person rather than an organization or a company? I also found an article by Microsoft about using SWOT for small business owners, as well as Investopedia, right, which is pretty good. It's sort of like Wikipedia for finance, and they have a definition in about SWOT in there that I thought was quite useful. because it also brings up certain points about what each of these factors are. So these are definitely further reading that you can have a look at to better understand. I found a Google Docs template for SWOT, so you can use that. You can't edit that template itself, but what you can do is save the template to your own drive, or save excuse me, or download it, and then edit that copy of it. And then of course the Euro Monitor template, which I said was very basic. Smartsheet, right? I found they have several templates, and you don't have to sign up to make use of it, because quite a few, there are quite a lot of other sites that provide free templates, but you usually have to give them your email address and name to to sign up and get in order to download the templates. But Smartsheet doesn't require that. They have two links. So when you click on the template, right, they will ask you, oh, do you want to sign up? Or no, I don't want to sign up. I just want to download. So you can just go ahead and download. And they have quite a few different templates. Let me just give me 1 minute to put in the links. So these are the links for further reading. And then these are the links for the, oops, for the template. Mm, yeah, so you can explore these to get a better understanding of how to create a SWOT analysis, and what do these individual factors mean. How do you um, uh, uh, fill in these different quadrants, right, for your own situation. I think Euromonitor actually uses a case study as well to give you an example of how they populated each of these factors, right, these quadrants, by looking at data. So you can sort of read that to get an understanding. So as I mentioned, SWOT itself cannot be a tool in and of itself. So there are other tools that you can make use of. So for us, right, as librarians, we deal with information. So one of our favorite tools, right, is called PESO. So PESO is actually a mnemonic device. It's an acronym for political, uh, environmental, social, technological, legal, and economic, right? So these are six factors. It started off as PES, so it only had political, economic, social, technological. But then later on, they added in legal and environmental factors as well. So using these, right, you can sort of map out all the different factors that will affect your industry or your company in all these different areas. So, let's say under political, right, if you want to expand into a country where the political situation is unstable or unclear, you need to go and do some reading and find out, all right, what is the political structure like there? Is it likely to lead to a lot of unrest or division in that area, in that country? Then for economic, of course, that is you have to do research in that area. Social research is also quite important, for especially for some technologies or some what you call it, for some industries, because it may not be socially acceptable for certain products to go into the market, or people may not find it socially acceptable for certain factors. So, let's say if you want to expand into Middle East and you want to sell a lot of women's products, you want to hire a lot of women, then you may find that, oh, there's a certain social resistance to that, right? To hiring women for your industry. Then technological, of course, you have to find out how well the technology has advanced in particular countries. If you want to set up, like, high speed internet and Wi-Fi and stuff, and then you realize, oh, the infrastructure is not in place for you to set it up in that area, then you may encounter a lot of obstacles. Now, of course, legal issues, if you have to ensure that the products that you're bringing into that country have legal, and also a lot of regulatory issues. You want to bring in certain raw materials. Is it legal? Are there regulations against bringing in certain raw materials, and so forth? And of course, environmental issues in our age where there's climate change, there is a lot of uncertainty, there's global warming. You have to also take into account, say, what your carbon footprint is. Are there going to be environmental impact on expanding your business into a particular country, things like that. For business planning, the business model canvas is actually a very useful tool, and it actually looks at a lot of factors, and you can actually fill in the blocks, right? Like, say, your customer segments, what is your value proposition? So some of these terms may sound a little team lah, a bit technical, but actually they are very easy to understand once you do a bit of reading about it. So for instance, like, a value proposition means what is it that your company or you can offer that is unique or different from what other people are offering. So I want to sell bubble tea. So how is my bubble tea going to be different from other companies' bubble tea, and how am I going to outcompete, say, Gong Cha or Koi, or and so forth? What is my unique factor? What do I bring to the table that will differentiate me from the other bubble tea companies? Okay, so that is a value proposition. And then, who are your customer segments? Who are you going to target? Is it the older market? Is it the younger people, etc.? Then, if you are interested in doing competitor analysis, there is something called Porter's Four Corners analysis, which is quite useful. It tries to analyze the actions and motivations of your competitor, and then you can work out, right, what your competitor is likely to be doing in the near future. So that allows you to sort of start planning to guard against, say, any infringement, or, well, not infringement lah, but any kind of actions that your competitor may take that may make you lose your market share, or you might want to think about how are you going to counter any of your competitors' actions when, if and when it occurs. Yeah, so that's these are some of the additional analytical tools that you can make use of. Let me just put it. Yeah, Leo put in market differentiation or product differentiation. That's correct. So your value proposition, right, is a kind of differentiation. Uh, let's see. So that's the PESO analysis, business model canvas, and also the Four Corners analysis websites. The business model canvas website, actually, it was started by I think a Norwegian businessman, and his company Strategizer. But I found that for Strategizer, if you want to read the content about the BMC and download the template, you have to actually sign up with them. So I was trying to use what you call it, a website that you didn't have to sign in. Leo asked whether you use five forces. Well, I think now it's six forces. They have added another factor, but I find that one starts to get a little bit complicated. So it's not really suitable to talk about. And also, to be honest, I don't have the training to talk about it, but I am aware of the tool. It is actually five forces or six forces, right? Actually started out as a reaction against SWOT. So Porter felt that SWOT was too ad hoc and is too not organized enough. So he created something called the five forces analysis. But based on my reading of five forces, right, it's too narrow, and some of the terms I have trouble trying to um, explain it very plainly. Yeah, so it will take me time to understand it. But I find that by and large, a lot of market research companies, right, still prefer to use SWOT, because if you want to talk to laymen, right, SWOT is still a more accessible tool. Yes, Lean Six Sigma, I went through training for it. It is also not an easy tool to sort of explain to lay people without putting in a lot of groundwork first. So you actually have to get people into that mindset, and make them understand the Six Sigma line mindset, right? And then teach them. So that's why I'm showing SWOT today, because it's something that is like a very simple, very low threshold kind of tool. So there are definitely a lot of other analytical tools that are out there. It's just that some of them require a fair bit of reading up, a fair bit of understanding, and you have to really do some research into the mindset and the framework before you can actually apply it. Whereas for SWOT, I feel that once you understand your mission, you understand your goal, and you have access to information, right, that will impact you or your mission or goal, then you'll be able to create a SWOT analysis already. So it doesn't require a lot of other knowledge other than your own, knowledge of yourself or your organization. Yeah, so thanks to Leo to for suggesting a lot of these other tools. You all can actually just search for these to get a slightly better understanding of what these are. And yeah, you can go in for training. There are actually classes that are being held to teach people, let's say, Lean Six Sigma and all that. They have all the different colored belts and so forth. Yeah, so okay, that more or less covers my workshop for today. So I just like to ask for very quick feedback from you. And yeah, so I'd like to thank you all very much for coming in today. And I hope that you found some use for it. And don't worry about the links. We will send you the links for today, right? To what you call it? To refer to at a future date. So if you have queries, right, for general library queries, you can actually email us at Escalate. Okay, and my own email for if you have business related queries for business resources. Yeah. Okay. Yikai, for my personal opinion is that if a good location of a site, right, is an opportunity if you don't have ownership of that site. Because once you have ownership of that site, then it should be a strength, because it belongs to you. So basically, internal and external, right? You have to draw a pretty clear line between what belongs to you and what is an external thing. So if I have, say, a 30-year contract for this piece of land, right, and it's a good location, then that is my strength. So whereas the locale around it, right, might be considered an opportunity, but yeah, you have to draw very clear lines so that you're able to put it into the quadrants. Right. So if there are no other questions, do feel free to email me. There was one question by Tommy, right, about wanting to compare two different software applications. What analysis tool is recommended? um to be honest, I can't be sure. That there is one tool that, oh, but it slipped my mind. So maybe Tommy, what you can do is that you can email me, and I will go and look it up, because I think I've seen it used before on certain websites where they compare specs and all that. But I can't remember the name of that particular tool. Yeah. All right. Thank you. So let me just stop the recording.